Hello, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Tammy Russell, and I'm the manager of CAA Atlantic in Bears Lake. And welcome to our webinar this afternoon, our presentation on rail travel. Today's presentation is going to be about 30 minutes long, give or take. It's best if you view it in full screen. And also there will be some videos played during the presentation where the audio might be a little lower than the rest of the presentation, so you may need to adjust your speakers for that portion. You will all be in listen-only mode, so if you'd like to ask a question, feel free. You can click on the orange arrow on your screen. That'll open the control panel. And in the control panel, there's an area for questions. Just type in your question, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. So let's get started. While it's not safe to travel at this time, it doesn't hurt to dream and plan for the future. It's my pleasure to introduce Chris David, Vice President of Sales, Canada at Yankee Leisure Group. He's a 20-year travel veteran who believes strongly in the power of travel to bring people together and feels privileged to have spent his career in a business dedicated to that goal. Chris is going to tell us about some amazing rail journeys today that I'm certain you will enjoy and want to add to your bucket list. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Over to you, Chris.
Thank you so much, Tammy. Folks, I think what we're going to do is turn off the video at this point. Usually we have little bit of video at the beginning just so that you can put a face to the name and see your presenters, but I think we're going to focus now on the slideshow and the videos we have for you. So I'm going to just deactivate the video portion. So thank you for the introduction, Tammy. Again, what we're going to be doing today is taking a whistle-stop tour through some of the great iconic rail journeys around the world. Not least with Via Rail traveling across Canada on the amazing Canadian train. And I'm very fortunate to have joining me today Jill Fisher, a senior sales specialist with Via Rail Canada, my colleague and counterpart. And Jill's going to provide a lot of extra information and really highlight the experience of traveling in Canada on board the train. You know, folks, I had a little video to kick things off this morning, but I think in the interest of time, I'm going to leave the video portion for Jill's amazing 2 videos showcasing some of the great rail journeys here within Canada, and that'll come a little bit later in the presentation. But I'm going to just dive right in and go into my portion here, introducing you very quickly to our company. We're called the Yankee Leisure Group. We specialize in rail travel all around the world. We have 2 different brands, one of which is Amtrak Vacations, because in the US we're the official partner, the official vacation partner for Amtrak. But then we have Rail Bookers, which offers rail travel vacation packages and experiences all over the world, in Europe, here in Canada, in Alaska, and luxury and specialty trains in destinations around the world like Australia, South Africa, Russia, and India. And I'll share some of these with you as we go into the presentation today. Our company has a worldwide footprint. We have offices in Australia, the UK, here in Canada, and both sides of the US. So we are a supplier. When you start traveling again in 2022 and work with your CAA advisor to put together a rail journey anywhere in the world, we'll be able to provide that 24-hour emergency support for you in destination, which is an important consideration for a traveler. Folks, here you see the European rail network, and the reason I always begin my presentations with this to give you a sense of how complex it can be to travel by rail. Over 3,000 rail routes throughout Europe and 30,000 more or less stations, making it quite an intimidating process to piece together an itinerary to travel independently using the trains. And at Rail Bookers, we work independently with all of the rail operators. We have direct relationships and contracts with Deutsche Bahn and Trenitalia and all the great European train companies that allows us to access those rail segments, all of that inventory. So again, your CAA advisor can put together that trip for you, even if you're going through multiple different countries throughout Europe. And uniquely, we have the ability through our partnerships with the rail companies to book it all 2 years in advance of your travel. Rail bookers are maybe a name that you're not that familiar with, and what it suggests, the name, is that we book rail, but that's just a small part of what we do. We take care of all of those train arrangements, but also hotels, sightseeing, local transportation, your transfers, ferries, cable cars, you know, those activities and the skip the line admissions to the highlight attractions throughout Europe. And also with our programs, our itineraries and packages, you can choose your hotel at every destination along the route with options ranging between 3 and 5 stars. A little bit about the experience on board the trains. Here we see a photograph of the economy carriage on board Trenitalia, the the Italian high-speed rail operator. And this just gives you a sense of what the atmosphere is like on board the trains. Great thing about rail travel, you're never confined to your seat. You can get up, use the washroom whenever you like, and there are lots of different environments on board to explore: cafe cars and lounge cars, observation cars, which Jill will be talking to you about. But also very important to remember is in the economy seating on a train, what's missing from this picture? The middle seat. No middle seat, so it's only an aisle and a window. You're never squashed between two people when you're traveling by train. And many of the overnight rail journeys allow you to have a private sleeping compartment where you can close the door behind you and enjoy complete privacy and avoid exposure to people in a group setting. So let's dive in and look at some of the bucket list rail travel experiences and destinations around the world, starting with Switzerland. Switzerland arguably is one of the premier train travel destinations in Europe and maybe all the world. The reason being that the rail network, the train routes, span the entire country, connecting all the cities, towns, ski resorts, and popular destinations throughout. And they travel through the most spectacular scenery everywhere they go, because Switzerland's a small landlocked country with lots of mountains. And so as you travel through the country by train, you have magnificent scenery wherever you look. We have lots of different options for exploring Switzerland. Itineraries ranging in duration from 4 or 5 nights to your full Monty Grand Tour of Switzerland, where you're going 2 weeks throughout every corner of the country on some of the iconic trains and the most popular city destinations like Lucerne, home to the Chapel Bridge, Europe's oldest covered bridge, 600-year-old wooden bridge. And in Lucerne, you have a full-day excursion to the top of Mount Pilatus, which is the mountain that towers majestically above the town and Lake Lucerne. Your day starts with a cruise on an old steamboat on Lake Lucerne, where you can see the beautiful landscapes from the water. You then go up the mountain on a cog train. This, in fact, is the steepest train journey in the world, so much so that the carriages have had to be constructed with the windows at an angle and the drink holders on a swivel, otherwise they'd fall over as you're going up the mountain. At the top of Mount Pilatus, you have a wonderful interlude to enjoy the scenery, and at the top there's a hotel, the historic Hotel Kulm, where you can actually enhance your trip by choosing to stay overnight, so you have the entire mountain peak to yourself when all the day visitors have gone down on the gondola at the end of the day. Again, in Switzerland, you have that opportunity to upgrade your accommodation. So when in Lucerne, which is one of Switzerland's largest town, the 4th largest, and it's most beautiful on the shores of Lake Geneva, why not upgrade your accommodation to the incredible 5-star Beau Rivage Palace, really adding that little bit of extra luxury into your itinerary, which is something so many people are interested in doing post-COVID, making their travels that much more memorable and spectacular. Switzerland is home to iconic scenic sightseeing trains, the most famous of which is the Glacier Express, which travels between Zermatt and St. Moritz, the 2 fashionable ski resorts, and it goes through the most spectacular remote parts of the Swiss Alps. Throughout that 8-hour journey, the train is configured and designed to really showcase the views and the scenery with huge panoramic windows. The bookend towns for that experience are Zermatt and St. Moritz once again. Zermatt is home to the Matterhorn, the mighty Matterhorn, maybe one of the world's most famous mountains. And when there, we have another of these mountain day trips, an excursion on the Gornergrat Cog Railway, which is a very steep train as well that goes up the neighboring mountain to the Matterhorn, the Gornergrat, and you have these incredible views of the world's most famous peak all along that journey. The sister train to the Glacier Express is the Bernina Express, And this is also a highlight of any trip to Switzerland and an integral part of many of our itineraries, traveling 4 hours south from St. Moritz down into the northern Italian town of Tirano, again, going through the most magnificent scenery and landscapes all throughout that journey. Our trips with rail bookers include a balance of included experiences and free time, either the rail journeys, the included sightseeing highlights and activities, but then you have time to do the things that people enjoy doing in these countries. In Switzerland, it's all about the hikes and the walks through those magnificent alpine regions. Everywhere you go, at the top of the mountains that you're ascending on the cog trains are these wonderful trails and walks for you to explore, to enjoy the fresh mountain air and beautiful scenery. The next of the bucket list categories that we're going to be exploring today is luxury rail travel. And the most famous, the most popular luxury train in Europe, possibly in the world, is the Venice Simplon Orient Express, the VSOE as we affectionately call it. This is a train that dates back to the 1920s and 30s when it first entered service, and the atmosphere and the environment on board reflects that era with the Art Deco decor as you see in the lounge car here. Very, very glamorous travel experience. You're dressing for dinner on the Orient Express. There are 3 magnificent dining cars, and gentlemen would arrive for dinner in jacket and tie, cocktail dresses for the ladies. The food is haute cuisine throughout. There are 4 meals included on the 1.5-day journey between London and Venice on this train, each one more spectacular than the last. And the cabin accommodations, as you would expect, are just sumptuous, polished cherry wood furnishings, sumptuous upholstery, and throughout this journey you are receiving unmatched service from these liveried white gloved stewards who are looking after your every need. Lots of different itineraries actually that we have with rail bookers to experience the Orient Express. You can travel through Italy, Rome, Florence, and Venice, but probably the most popular is London to Venice. Again, a journey of 1.5 days, and we include in our packages an overnight in London to get ready for the trip, and at the end, 3 nights in Venice to really enjoy and soak up the atmosphere of one of Europe's most romantic destination cities. And included there, you'll have a gondola ride, a walking tour, entrance to the Doge's Palace, and a chance, again, to just soak up the atmosphere, enjoying a cappuccino on Piazza San Marco. Luxury, another of Europe's great luxury rail experiences is, we saw the Glacier Express that goes through the Swiss Alps, 8 hours, St. Moritz to Zermatt, a day travel experience, seeing the Alps in the daylight from those most inaccessible parts. And they have excellence class on board, where you have a butler, a 5-course included gourmet meal, and 1-by-1 seating so that every passenger has their own huge panoramic window. Belmond, which operates the Orient Express, also has other luxury trains in Europe. One of our favorites is the Royal Scotsman, with lots of journeys going through the Scottish Highlands, featuring not only the luxury on board, beautiful accommodations and lounge areas, magnificent dining, but also onboard entertainment in the local style, as well as incredible off-train experiences like a visit to Inverlochy Castle, where you will enjoy high tea and the hospitality of the owners of the castle. Wonderful way to experience that typical Scottish culture. And then there's the grand dame of all the world's luxury trains, which is the Golden Eagle Trans-Siberian Express. This is an incredible, iconic bucket list adventure that travels over 6,500 miles across 8 time zones, fully 1/3 of the world's time zones between Moscow and Vladivostok. It's a traveling 5-star hotel that will take you across the entire expanse of Russia with lots of incredible experiences along the way, like a private tour of the treasures of the Tsar's armory in Moscow, where you'll get to see those magnificent Fabergé eggs collected by the Russian royal family over the years, as well as an included meal at Cafe Pushkin, which is just incredible. I've had the opportunity of dining here in my travels, housed in a Baroque mansion. It's probably the most fashionable dining venue in Moscow, you expect to look over to the next table and see, Vladimir Putin sitting there. You're also traveling across Russia on the Golden Eagle. You go through Kazan, the capital of Tatarstan, where you'll see the incredible Kremlin there with its picture-perfect onion dome cathedral. You'll travel across the shores of Lake Baikal in magnificent style throughout. The staterooms feature state-of-the-art amenities and ensuite facilities. You also travel on the Orient Express through Mongolia, where you will, in Ulaanbaatar, you'll visit a traditional ger and meet a nomadic family and try your hand at horse riding, which is such an integral part of Mongolian life. And then there's the Maharajas Express, the famous Indian luxury train. And again, with these luxury rail experiences, everybody, it's really a 5-star hotel on wheels. Your luxury accommodation is traveling with you as you go on a tour throughout the destination. In India, you'll visit Ranthambore for a tiger safari. You'll visit the imperial cities of Rajasthan and explore all the palaces and the forts. Wonderful cuisine throughout. So a great way to see all the highlights of India. The Taj Mahal, which you'll, by the way, visit at dawn, followed by a champagne breakfast at the Taj Kema, a hillside hotel overlooking the Taj Mahal. So wonderful luxury rail experiences to bear in mind when you start traveling again, possibly in 2022. But last, leaving the best for last, Canada. We specialize in Canada at Rail Bookers, working closely in partnership with Via Rail. And we have so many wonderful itineraries. Traveling across Canada on the train is one of the iconic bucket list experiences that many people are thinking about as their next great adventure when we're all able to start traveling again. In addition to going across the train and seeing the country at eye level and really getting that experience of the vastness and diversity of Canada, you have wonderful included experiences along the way in Toronto, sightseeing tour, taking in all the highlights like the magnificent ROM, which is notable as much for its architecture as its collections, Niagara on the Lake, where you'll have a winery tour and tasting, and through the Canadian Rockies. Most people crossing Canada on the train will include an interlude in the Canadian Rockies. The Via Rail Canadian goes through Jasper, and stopping there, you have the chance to spend a few days between Jasper, Banff, and Lake Louise, taking in the magnificent scenery. As you see here, we include the Jasper Sky Tram. We include excursions through Jasper National Park, the largest in the Canadian Rockies, to see the beautiful lakes, mountains, and wildlife up close and personal, as well as that tour along the Icefields Parkway, including a visit to the Columbia Icefield and a walk out on that magnificent glacier skywalk. You'll stop at Athabasca Falls, one of the most famous and iconic scenic attractions in the Canadian Rockies. And you have the opportunity throughout this journey to choose the hotels once again based on your preference, your budget, your travel style, and what you're looking to celebrate on the trip, maybe upgrading in Banff to the incredible Banff Springs, Fairmont Banff Springs Hotel. And when you get to Vancouver, sightseeing included there as well. Some you'll have several nights in a hotel and chance to explore the attractions and the highlights, like the amazing Capilano Suspension Bridge Park. Before I hand over to Jill, I want to just let you know about some of the things that rail operators, Via Rail, and all the others are doing to make sure train travel is safe. Limiting capacity on board to ensure that social distancing guidelines can be maintained. Sanitizing on an ongoing basis all frequently touched surfaces, adopting touchless processes so no paper is changing hands, cash or tickets on board the train, so you can really opt for rail travel, choose rail travel with peace of mind. With that, I want to hand over to Jill to flesh out and let us know more about the experience on board traveling with Via Rail. And to kick us off with that, I'm going to just share the video that tells us about the amazing Canadian experience traveling across Canada by train.
This year, put your dreams in motion and take the trip of a lifetime. Wake up to the grandeur of the Canadian wilderness and take it all in. Capture the flavor of each region. Make memories and be inspired. Have you really seen Canada? The Canadian, your window to Canada.
Hi, everyone. I think it's over to me now. Chris has handed over control. So thank you for that introduction and for introducing the Canadian and some of our product over at Via Rail. I am watching that presentation and thinking really how it's been a minute since I have been on a train myself, and I am really looking forward to getting back on board not only our own trains, but maybe you've given me a couple ideas of some good bucket list trips for myself for future. So I'm here today, I guess, to shed a little bit of light on the specifics on board our trains over at Via Rail. For your future travel plans, as our friends at CAA have said, and as Chris was speaking to, we know that right now is not the time for many people to be traveling, but we do hope to welcome you back aboard soon. For those of you who haven't traveled with us, we are looking forward to welcoming you aboard for the first time, maybe, and whenever that may be, we know that it's going to be a great experience. Just a note on our product at the moment. We do have some trains that are operational. As a Crown Corporation of the Government of Canada, we are an essential service here in Canada. So just, we won't dwell too much here about the protocols that are in place because of COVID. But safety and security has always been at the core of what we do at Via Rail. We're heavily regulated in Canada, and more than that, it's just always been something that we feel is important, keeping our guests, our employees, and the communities we serve safe. That hasn't changed with COVID. If anything, just the way we do it has changed a little bit. So when you're ready to move forward, just be assured we're ready to move forward with you. And for any up-to-date information, specific questions about COVID protocols, I would encourage you to visit our website, www.viarail.ca, just because that's going to give you the most up-to-date information about changes to services, protocols on board, anything that you need to know. We're in such an evolving situation that really is the best way to get the most up-to-date information. But today's presentation is for dreaming of better times to come. So let's jump in and talk about some of what we do over here at Via Rail. So as the National Rail Service of Canada, we do offer service throughout the country from coast to coast to coast. We say we don't want to forget our friends up on the North Coast in Churchill, Manitoba. But the routes that sort of are most traveled with us are the ocean, Halifax to Quebec City. I personally am missing my time out in Atlantic Canada this year, so looking forward to getting back out your way. The corridor between Quebec City and Windsor, and we kind of unglamorously call it the corridor, but those are some of our busiest routes into some of our most popular destinations. Of course, the Canadian, Toronto to Vancouver, or the reverse, which is that bucket list trip that Chris mentioned, and we're going to talk about that in greater detail today. And then some of our regional routes. We have trains that go up to Churchill, Manitoba, and up to the north coast of British Columbia and Prince Rupert, which is really a sort of a sleeper hit. It's a really interesting community. Our trains in the corridor have both business and economy service. We like to make sure that we're offering a little something for everybody. That's part of our mandate, is to make sure that our services are accessible to people, not only in the physical sense, but also from a price point. So we do have economy and business class service on those trains in the corridor. We do encourage people to have a look at business class. Sometimes people aren't so used to shopping around for business class because they're thinking of the prices on airlines and airfares. But when it comes to rail, business class can be a really affordable enhancement to your trip. So that just gives you a few perks on board. We have great meal service. There's a cocktail service, wine and beer with dinner, roomy seats, priority boarding, access to our business class lounges. But our economy class is a great choice too. Comfortable seats, really good onboard meal program. We've made some revamps to that, so it's a good program that highlights some of the regional product from the communities that we serve. You know, Quebec microbreweries for our beer choices, Canadian wines. And again, you do get that free baggage, free seat selection, and there's also free Wi-Fi throughout our trains in the corridor. So during the time where we sort of had some disruption to our services, we haven't been sitting idle, we've been busy. So there's been a lot of refurbishments to our business class cars, also to our economy class cars, and many of those are complete. This is an interior shot. So as Chris said, no middle seats on board trains, which is really great. And you also get a ton of leg room, a lot of space to get up and walk around. And that sort of leather seating is sort of the norm through most of our network in the corridor now. Improvements at our stations, upgrades to business class lounges, our platform areas, etc. And moving on to the Canadian. So the Canadian, I know, is kind of what a lot of people are really interested in finding out about. It is that big bucket list trip. It goes from Toronto to Vancouver. You can, of course, do it in reverse. Some of the highlights for that, travels between Vancouver and Toronto. So you're passing all the way through Ontario, Manitoba, Alberta, British Columbia, which, is not a short trip. It takes 4 days and 4 nights. That's how long we get to have you on board with us. There are some shorter trips available. Typically, we run a bit of a product that travels between Vancouver and Edmonton to give people sort of a taste of what we're doing without doing the full journey. We do have point-to-point service available because we are sort of that essential service. While many of our guests are joining us for that big bucket list trip, we do have people who use that train just to get around Canada and who use point-to-point service. Actually, in some of our smaller communities, we still even have flag service where people kind of are on the side and flag the train, and it's prearranged, of course, but it just makes for a really unique experience. You do have a complimentary stop on some of our trips, on all of our trips if that's what you choose to do. So for FIT, they can make their own itineraries, and we do operate year-round. A lot of people get pretty focused on summer, but the train can be a really special experience any time of the year. So again, on board with that, we do have the multiple classes of service. We have economy and our sleeper plus class, which includes our berths, our cabins for 1 and 2, and then of course our prestige class, which is really that luxury product that just takes the thing to a whole new level, really. And we are getting a ton of interest in that. I think people are definitely feeling pent up. Maybe there's some money that's been put aside from vacations that people weren't allowed to take, and people are really looking at ways to upgrade their experience when they are able to travel again. One note is that we do have alternative accommodation on board. So sometimes people just kind of look at our room categories and say, well, that's not really going to work for me because, maybe we're a family with a couple of kids and we don't want to be split up. How does that work? That's something to really inquire about because we do have alternatives that we can do. We pop walls out. We take 2 cabins for 2 and put them together, and now it's a room for 4. We can have 2 guests with a configuration where they take 2 rooms and we put them together so they get a bit of a bigger space. A couple choices, just if you do find yourself in that unique situation. And a good rule of thumb, people kind of want to know what it includes. If you have accommodation, so if you have a bed on the train, you have food on the train included. So food is available for purchase in our economy class, but all those who have purchased sleeping quarters with us, whether it's berth or prestige, they do have that food on board. And the food, of course, is a major part of the Canadian experience. I think people sort of have different expectations when it comes to rail if they haven't done that kind of trip, and actually are often really pleasantly surprised with the quality of food on board. Chefs preparing those meals daily with rotating choices. It's not the same stuff over and over again, and again, showcasing sort of some of the regional product that we have available in Canada. So just a few visuals that we'll go through quickly because I know we are short on time today as always. Our economy class, guests can stretch, walk around, the seats recline, tons of room for leg room, food and beverage available for purchase. At night, the seats recline back. People do sleep on those. I know that that's not something that some people are interested in, but for some of our student travelers, it's something that lets them do that journey at an affordable price point. But most people are in our Sleeper Plus classes or Prestige. So we have the sleeping quarters in what we call manor cars. So this just gives you a bit of a visual of what the interior of a manor car would look like. So in yellow, you have our berths, our cabins for 2 in green in the middle, and then in that sort of mauve color are our cabins for 1. So you kind of have an idea of how many of them. That blue section are the showers. So for those folks in our Sleeper Plus category, they would be using that shower space. It's a private shower space, and you do get shower amenities delivered daily in the rooms. So upper and lower berths are the entry price point for sleeper accommodation. On the one side of the screen, you can see the daytime configuration. So those sort of leather banquettes, the window that you can see. And then at nighttime, they do fold down into the beds. There's a sort sort of cloth zip that people zip into there. So there is no locking door, and on the day, during the daytime, that is sort of exposed. So it sort of lacks a little bit of privacy, but it really gets the job done. It provides you with a nice place to sit during the day and really comfortable beds at night. Many people interested in our cabins for 1 or 2. So that gives you that large window. You can enjoy the scenery. You get doors that lock from the inside, so just a bit more privacy. In that case, you do have a toilet, vanity, and potable water in your room, which is great, and a power adapter. So the way that those work is your turn down service happens during dinner and breakfast. So the attendants come in and they basically flip the room from daytime to nighttime. The shower is shared and you're given a fresh shower kit every day. So really it all just kind of works pretty seamlessly there. Here's just a bit of a view of what the daytime configuration is for that sleeper plus cabin for 1. And then that's the sleeper for 2. So these rooms are sort of, I say they're kind of like Rubik's cubes. Here you can kind of see where the beds have been tucked under, the chairs rather have been tucked under the beds at nighttime. But it is quite comfortable. You get a mattress, you get your pillows, a duvet, reading lights. Comfortable experience in sleeper plus, to be sure. But we do know that the real luxury comes with prestige class. A lot of interest in this room category. It sells out on many of our departures. So here you see the prestige car, far fewer rooms because there is sort of dedicated service there. There's dedicated concierges, there's dedicated spaces for our prestige class clients. And here's a daytime view of that room. So now you're getting into really big windows, a nice big comfortable seating area. There's a fridge, there is television services available on board, and you do have both a private washroom and a private shower. Upgraded linens and bedding, so it's a double bed. It's perfect for couples, or we have lots of people who are traveling with traveling companions or friends who they're comfortable sharing those accommodations with. And then there are some private spaces that are just available for those prestige clients. So the prestige dome car, an area where people can go and have cocktails and meet fellow travelers. I should say that that is another additional perk of prestige class, is it really is all inclusive in the sense that not only are your meals included, but your alcohol is also included. Another view of that dome car, private to prestige. So just a few perks there if that's something that people are looking to do. I would really recommend looking into that. Public spaces are the areas that are available to everybody on the train. So our dining car, again, the food service is something that people are quite surprised with the quality of quite often. It really is sort of almost like an old school experience where the service is there and the linens and the attention to detail and just sort of a nice surprise for people. Those are booked by reservation, so that at dinner and at lunch, people book their dining time and they come in at that prescribed time. Breakfast, a bit more fluid at their leisure. Dome cars, places where all guests can go. They can have their cocktails during the day available for purchase. The viewing domes, this is something that people really enjoy. That's where you get up top into those domes, sort of up in the sky and going through places like the Rockies. There's really just nothing quite like it, to be honest. And of course, like we said, the Canadian, a popular choice during the summertime, but shoulder, fall, winter, also a really special experience on board the Canadian. You get sort of a more intimate community of folks. The community on board the Canadian, I always say, is one of the things that actually makes it the most special. You really do get people from all over the world, Canadians looking to travel for, to get from point A to point B, people who have dreamed their whole life of this kind of train trip. You get rail buffs on there. You get people from all over the world. We have a program on board for artists on board where we invite up-and-coming Canadian artists to join us and to entertain our guests in return for passage across the country. And it really just kind of creates this special dynamic where all these different kinds of people kind of come together. And I actually, it's kind of funny, I got almost a little emotional when I was thinking about it yesterday, but I really do think that after we all sort of collectively emerge from this very unique time in history, I think that the opportunity to gather and connect will become all the more meaningful. So moving on to an area that I think many of you are probably familiar with, how apropos that we would conclude out in Atlantic Canada with the ocean. The ocean is a wonderful trip connecting Montreal and Halifax, shorter than the Canadian, but also sleeper products. That's just 24 hours. The times are wonderful. You kind of leave in the evening from Montreal, you have a nice dinner, wake up in the morning, breakfast, lunch served on board, and you're into Halifax at 5:30 in the afternoon. Of course, you can get off at other points in between. And in the return, it's a nice option too. On board, our accommodation is a little bit different than the Canadian in that we only have cabins for 2. So if you're traveling solo, you would be in that cabin also. But other than that, a sort of similar situation with the turn down service, the attendants, the meals in the dining car, the public spaces, the club car, always a fun place on the ocean trips. Our attendants and the folks who work on those trains are from those communities, so there is always a bit of a maritime flair, which I don't need to tell anyone here that creates a really sort of special and unique experience, especially for our guests traveling from afar. And I think with that, that is me done over here at Via Rail. So we are going to quickly end off with I don't know if we can find it. A video. I think actually though, maybe in the interest of time, we may, let's see what we can do here, what time we're at. Sorry folks, we're just finding this here. I think what we're actually going to do is skip ahead to our friends over at CAA who are going to, I think, wrap things up. I think we're almost at about time here, and so that will give us time for the question portion of today.
Perfect. That was amazing. I know my bucket list just got longer. I don't know about yours, but I can't thank you enough, both Jill and Chris, for those fantastic presentations today. Definitely gave us lots to think about and dream about while we're waiting for the world to be a safer place to travel in. We do have a prize draw that we're going to do at the end of all of our sessions. So for those of you attending today, make note that we do have a full lineup of presentations happening tomorrow on Sunday and again on Monday. If you'd like to register for any of those, you can register on our website, atlantic.caa.ca. Just look under travel, and then you'll see our presentation lineup listed there, not only for the next few days, but also into the future as well. So I don't know if there's any questions. Do we have any questions to answer? Let me check here. I don't see any questions. So if you did have one and we didn't answer it today, don't worry, we will get back to you via email. And also the prize draw will be done via email as well. So thanks so much to everyone for attending. Again, thanks so much, Chris and Jill. Fantastic presentation. We really appreciate your partnership and look forward to the world being a safer place. So enjoy your evening, everyone. Take care.
Amen. Thank you so much, Tammy.
Thanks, Tammy.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.